Good evening to me, and welcome to everybody to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast for our special NWA edition. The gentleman joining me today is a part of the NWA, but has had a stellar career prior to that. He was a four-time tag team champion in the USWO with his trainer, Quentin Charisma, for part of Hanging Tough, I believe, and
Yeah.
a three-time heavyweight champion in there. He's also been an NWA Southern Tag Team Champion with Drew Haskins as the Untouchables, an Australian Heavyweight Champion, which is interesting, and a television champion. And he's come on the show today to talk about his career, what he's up to, how he got into the business. And it's the afternoon, I think, or early evening over there. So welcome to the show, Jeremiah Plunkett. Welcome.
No, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's about 3 p.m. my time, so just early afternoon.
9 o'clock in the evening our time. We've got Sal on Monday, and we're doing it at 11 p.m. UK time. So I'm probably going to be in my sleeping bag when we.
Sal will be wide awake. Sal doesn't sleep. It's weird.
I also understand that he's got hair like me now.
He does, and I'm not sure that he knows how to deal with it.
Maybe I can give him a few pointers on Monday. For starters, before we kick off, I must say a big thank you to Fiona Loughran, who runs Inside the Ropes. She's actually doing some running for a UK independent company called One Pro Wrestling today and tomorrow, so she couldn't be on the show today. But without Fiona, this interview today probably wouldn't have happened. Sal probably wouldn't have happened on Monday. She's gone out to bat for us. She didn't have to do it, but we're so appreciative of her for doing this. And obviously, Jeremiah, we're appreciative of you for taking your time to come on the show today. So,
Fee's great. Love Fee.
Great. Yeah, she's tremendous. She was great on the show for us. And I've met her a few times at Inside the Ropes previously before I come on the podcast. Yeah, she's fantastic. But let's talk about you. So initially, what got you into wrestling and who was you admiring growing up as a child?
So I was always into wrestling, I guess. It was always on at least, which is weird because none of my family was into it. Like none of them. So I remember like my youngest memories. I remember being really into like Hogan and Warrior, like all of them. But I wasn't a super fan. Like it was just something that I kind of watched if I saw it.
Yeah.
I probably became a super fan around being 10 years old. And I don't know how it is in the UK. On Saturday mornings, that's when cartoons come on.
Okay.
Or used to, it doesn't anymore. But
yeah,
that's when they always came on. Well, around, I don't know, 11 in the morning, cartoons just start to go off. Right following cartoons would be wrestling. So that's where you would have like your WCW, I think maybe it's Worldwide.
Is that Worldwide? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I believe. I may be wrong on that. I knew that WCW had a show that came on Saturday morning. WWF had a show. I think that might have been like Jacked or whatever it was called.
Yeah.
Metal, one of their shows that had like the lower card stars just beating guys you never heard of.
Yeah.
But then here locally, I live in Tennessee in the States. We had the last territory that was alive, which was Memphis Wrestling, USWA, whatever you want to call it. Yeah. So about 10 years old, I remember flipping through this, and it's studio wrestling, which is funny because that's what I do now.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is different. Like there's no, lights and pyro and all this, but it seemed gritty and more real. So I was really into it. And then this is when Lawler was doing commentary at WWF.
Yeah, sure.
And he would come back just for the big towns periodically. So Memphis was really big about music videos when people would come back in town. Yeah. And they played one for Jerry Lawler, and I still remember it to this day. I believe it was the King of the Mountain music video. And he's throwing fire. And that blew my mind. I'd never seen someone throw a fireball in my life.
Yeah.
So I got really into wrestling, and I wanted to be a wrestler just to learn to throw fire. Because I don't know why I thought it would be headlock takeover, drop down, throw a fireball. I don't know why I thought that'd be wrestling training, but I did. So ever since then, like I always wanted to do it, backyarded with my buddies. And then when American football didn't work out for me past high school, I followed wrestling.
Cool. I say, give you an idea in the UK. So we obviously had the British wrestling scene. It used to be on World of Sport. It was a massive thing. Before, I think I was born in '84. I know you're about 36, aren't you? So a couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 86 than me. Yeah. So a couple of years younger than me. So yeah, we used to have World of Sport in the UK. Obviously, Big Daddy. We got Sky. Personally, I got Sky. I want to say 90s, and it when Warrior and Hogan main event in WrestleMania 6. So yeah, 1990. Yeah, exactly right. I remember it was never. it was like, I just remember Warrior being in a suit and Hogan. It was really weird seeing Warrior face paint, hair in this suit, and Hogan.
Yeah,
they were doing like a little, obviously like a press conference thing. But we never really got it that well, like American style. And then obviously Sky Sports in the UK took on WWE initially. And then funny you should mention cartoons, because WCW used to be on the Cartoon Network. So basically we had the Cartoon Network. So you remember, you had to see Johnny Bravo program.
oh yeah, oh
So
yeah.
so Johnny Bravo used to finish on a Friday, because obviously we wouldn't get it live at this point. We was always going to get it on delay. And Johnny Bravo used to finish at like 7 and then or 8 in the Cartoon Network. It would then go off and TNT would come on, and then it would be Nitro. And then generally I would switch, but because Sky had Raw on the same time. So it was kind of like the Monday Night Wars, but on a Friday for us in the UK. That's kind of how it went. But now we get it all live. AEW. We don't get AEW live, only the pay-per-views from AEW, but we get Dynamite on a week, and obviously we can watch NWA on YouTube. There is a plug there for NWA.
Yeah.
Wanted to make sure I got that in for you. Obviously, we mentioned one of your trainers, Quentin Charisma. When did that all get started for you? When did you start going to wrestling school? And how did you take that initial, I would say, shock? Because I went to a wrestling school. I've mentioned this on the podcast before. I went to a wrestling school. I live in a place called Essex in England, which is just outside of London. I went to a local school there for about a month. And I soon realized very quickly it was never going to be for me. I wasn't never going to be a wrestler. And it was a simple move that finished it, which was a body slam. And obviously you learn the bumps and everything, but it shocked me so much that I was just like, no. But what about
you? So that's, man, things are so weird. So I started my training in early 05.
Yeah.
So while the internet was there, it wasn't like, and maybe you could have, maybe I was just too stupid, but you couldn't just go wrestling schools in Google and you have 1,000 pop up. Right. So I knew about OVW, and I also knew how much OVW cost. And I was like, I don't know if I can afford that. No. The power plant was gone because it was 05. WCW was out. Shawn Michaels Wrestling School had closed down, I believe. So I had no idea. I had no idea where to train. So I would go to independent shows. And as guys were going to the ring, dressed like way nicer than an independent crowd, at least here. Like they may dress way better over the UK, but here it's like, it's like overalls and no shirts and stuff like that, especially here in the South where I am. Okay. So, I'd like have a blazer and jeans and a nice shirt or whatever. Mm-hmm. So I'd definitely stand out. And as we're going to the ring, I'd just be like, as they're walking by, I'd just be like, hey, you train people to wrestle? And I'd get a weird look every time. Yeah. But then finally, going to one of these shows, a guy named Mean Mike Woods, after he gave me a weird look, wrestled his match. After he came back, he said, stay after. Okay. This guy's either going to beat me up or maybe he's going to train me. We'll see. It's one of the two. And he made us wait. Like it was me, my best friend Chris, and my other real good friend Caleb. And we sat there for like an hour after the show. Like the only people in the venue. I'm like, we might get murdered. And no, he had worked something out. He went down into the locker room. His roommate, who's now one of my closest friends in the world, buzzed up. And then another guy on the show named Lee Condry. Lee owned a ring, and Lee lived in the same town I lived in. We didn't know each other. But he worked it out with them to where just wanted to get all the logistics worked out and came up and goes, okay, we can start. This is how much it's going to be, blah, blah, blah. And 3 days a week, yeah, it was Monday, Wednesday, Friday. 3 days a week, we would go over to Lee's house, set up the ring in his yard, and train. And then I became good buddies with Lee. And on those off days, he said, if you'll set up the ring, you can train as much as you want. So I'd go there on days we weren't already training, set up the ring myself usually, and train. And I loved it. Quentin was a trainer later on. I had been in the business. Quentin was more, I guess he'd be more of a mentor than a trainer, even though he did show me how to throw a drop kick. But I was probably a year in and didn't know I don't know the language parameters on here. So my behind from a hole in the ground.
Your arse to your elbow. Yeah.
There you go. All right. Did not know anything. Like I could protect myself and take a couple bumps, and that was it.
Yeah.
And someone put Quentin with me as a manager at first. He had a car wreck and his body wasn't doing too well, so he was just managing. And he taught me so much just from outside the ring or in the locker room, going, that was stupid. This was stupid. This was actually okay, but this was bad, and this was bad. To the point where I hated him at first. I thought he is an absolute prick. But then I realized that he's teaching me stuff right, because I try the stuff he said and it'd get a better reaction. I'm like, okay. And as it went on, Quentin became my tag team partner, as you said, because he got back into working out and his body healed and everything. And he's like, well, I want to start wrestling again. He goes, but I'm older. Which is funny because he was my age now when he was doing that. He's like, I'm older. He goes, I don't know if I want to do singles matches. Would you tag with me? I go, sure, whatever. And he taught me tag psychology, and I've loved tag teams ever since. But yeah, so that's kind of how that came about. Is literally, yeah, just asking people. And as far as was there any shock value, I want to say yes and no. And I'll say no just because, like I said, I backyard wrestled. My dad was a carpenter.
Okay.
Would go to indie shows with me, and he built me a wooden ring, a little 14 by 14. Oh, it was stiff. So the minute I got into a proper pro ring and took a bump, I was like, oh, this feels better than our ring.
Yeah.
So there was still some stuff like we didn't know, like we saw some stuff on Tough Enough, and we're like, oh, this is how they bump and stuff like that. But I do remember taking power bombs way out of order, by the way, way too early.
Yeah.
To take power bombs. Sometimes training would just be like, let's try this. And I remember getting power bombed and my head hit for the first time.
Ouch.
Because, we're taking tackles and stuff before that. So I wasn't really worried, but I took a big power bomb, my head hit. And I go, this sucks. I felt this before in American football. I think this is a concussion, I thought about then, like, almost. Then I was like, we'll see you later. And then I took it the next time and remembered to glue my chin to my chest, and didn't happen again. I was like, okay, I'm fine. Yeah. But almost. After that first power bomb, I was like, well, I don't know.
I'll kill that. I mean, I say a simple body slam for me. I mean, we was doing, just general bumps, hip toss, headlock takeovers, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
The first one, and again, it may have just been me landing awkwardly or funny, but it just, I kind of knew anyway, but I wanted to keep going, because sometimes it's one of those things that you just click to, and then eventually, it works. But no, not for me. It didn't work for me, unfortunately. But you mentioned tag team. You mentioned sort of learning the tag team aesthetics. We had a tag team on for one of the wrestling companies that we sponsor. Funny enough, they're a great team. They're called Beers and Beatdowns. What a great name for a tag team. I mean, I read it first, it was B&B, and I was like, well, B&B in England stands for bed and breakfast, like a hotel, and I was just like, wow. But it was Beers and Beatdowns, and they were saying that it's all about the hot tag, is that exactly what you were being told as well? It was about the sort of the aesthetics of a tag is the hot tag. And did you have to like work on moves together? So like, did you incorporate sort of moves that you do, but then Quentin come in to make it like a double team?
So as far as working through the hot tag, 100%. That's what any tag match is. That's Al Snow laid this out the best way to me. He said every match that's not just a regular singles match is a gimmick match. A tag match is a gimmick match, and the gimmick is that hot tag. That's what it's all building to. So yeah, it is build the hot tag. Build the hot tag. There should be two of the loudest reactions should be when the hot tag happens and when the finish happens.
Yeah, that's
how a tag match should be. And I've always loved that psychology. And there's so many more moving parts and things you can do. And I think that's why I love tag wrestling. And I'm sorry, the double teams. Quentin was very old school. So Quentin broke in like early 90s, like maybe 91.
Okay.
And so they were very much the whole, we're not practicing anything.
Oh, okay.
So it would be, we would talk about them and we would hope our timing worked, but it didn't always. But no, and I was so green as far as like stuff that I didn't really have a move set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Quentin would suggest something to me. I'd be like, all right, we'll try it. Whatever will happen. But we worked pretty good together, and we didn't do a lot of tag stuff. But I remember I would always shoot like crazy. He's doing like double flapjack, or like I give him an inverted atomic drop, and he gives him like a belly splash or something like that. Because Quentin was a big heavy guy, and and I'm like, hey, how about you hold him for a wheelbarrow, and I come off with a cutter, and he's like, what? So you could definitely tell the age difference there, because I'm like, maybe I'll go to the top and do this. He goes, no. So he had to slow me down a lot. But no, I don't think we ever got the only thing we ever got in the ring and practice was we got to a show way too early once and nobody was there. So I wanted to throw a drop kick. And I said that in front of Quentin. I knew Quentin could throw an enziguri, but when I'm saying Quentin's big, Quentin was probably like 350. And he goes, "Oh, I can show you how to throw a drop kick." And I go, "What?" At the time I was 225. I'm a bit heavier now, and he showed like Quentin was big on if it's something he couldn't athletically do, he could break down to technique. And he's the one who taught me that if you're not a super athlete, you have to have really good technique. And if you have really good technique, you can look athletic. And I'm like, it clicked in my head. People, I'll still bring drop kick out occasionally now, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know you could drop kick." I'm like, "Brother, I can't jump for anything, but I'll get you in the job."
Brilliant. So before we move on, because we're going to mention TNA gut check in a minute, but before we move on, I always play games when I'm on this. I've nicked a few games from. So this one in particular, I don't know if you've ever seen Sean Oliver used to do kayfabe commentaries, and he's done a.
Is it what's in the bag?
Yeah. I was going to do it. I kind of took it from the dick bag thing.
Yeah.
But obviously we can't necessarily do that. So but he's done it a few times. It was word association, and I couldn't do it with. I think it was Cornette. Jimmy Cornette. I love Cornette. He's great.
Same here. I
think he's fantastic. I can't say that in front of when we had Russo on, but obviously, yeah. But I love Cornette. I think he's great. But he done that, and I thought, I like that. So I've got 8 wrestlers I've named here, and we're going to throw it out to you first. I'm going to give you the name of a wrestler, and you just give me the first words or sentence that comes into your head when I say wrestling, and I'll follow it after with mine. The first one I've got here is Jerry Lawler. Funnily enough.
My idol.
Your idol.
That was 100% my idol. As soon as I turned 10 years old, and I watched him there. I just thought he was a ring announcer. As soon as I watched him in USWA, and I'd go back and see the videos of him beating everybody in Memphis, because they would cut, even if he lost a match, they would cut those music videos where it looked like he beat everybody.
Yeah.
They have Hogan bumping all around for him, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like that happened. It did at one point, but yeah, he's my idol at one point.
I actually just had a simple one, which was the King, because that's how I've always known Jerry the King Lawler. That was by the time I'd never knew about Memphis or anything like that until I started getting into wrestling, and more of my teenage years when I could start looking back and I remember Cornette telling a story when he nearly got shot. Someone pulled a gun on him. He was with I want to say the Midnight. I think it was Midnight Express.
I could see that 100%.
Yeah, he was that. The next one on my list was Dusty Rhodes.
Oh, baby, the dream. Monkey. Yeah. The dream is half of the reason that I spent many years wearing cowboy boots.
Really? Yeah. Oh, okay. Interesting. I think Stone Cold was not Stone Cold. Who was it? Someone who used to wear the cut-off sleeves, and it might have been Steve when he was wearing the 316 shirts. I used to that got me into sleeveless tops.
There you go.
Kind of the same thing, but with Dusty, I literally had the dream, and I actually got a story. I met him and Cody at WrestleMania Access. Forgive me, I think it might have been Texas, maybe in Houston at WrestleMania 25. And it was so great that you go through like the library of WWE and it shows you certain bits and pieces, and you come to the end and they were on the table together. And it was just really nice. For me, it was just nice to, meet Dusty Rhodes, had a nice conversation with him, and Cody. Obviously, Cody now is going on to amazing things, but yeah, it was just really great to see him. Third one list is Ric Flair.
Oh, Nate, the truest world champion of that time, I think.
Yeah, I've got would be good at a party.
Yeah, I've heard stories different ways.
Okay,
I've heard a lot of fun. I've heard quite the pain. So I don't know. I've never partied with him. I would do it for the story.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I think Bret Hart. When he was over here, he was on actually Inside the Ropes, funny enough. And he told a story not about Ric Flair, but it was they were in a strip club. And they ended up all doing their finishes on Vince. So the Road Warriors done theirs, and it was really bad. So Jim the Anvil hoisted him up, and Bret just took his head off with the heart attack. And then in the end, they went back to Ric Flair's hotel room. Was banging on the door, and he wasn't in. And I think it was, I want to say, it may have been a referee or or Finkel or Gene Oakland that was in there. And they all just piled in his ear. And he wasn't there, but it was just, they all just partied in there. It was Vince, Bret, Hogan, Anvil. There was a load of the other guys, but yeah,
I've heard the story about Vince taking finishers at a bar. I've read that somewhere. I can't remember where, but I read it somewhere.
Bret done it Bret done it over here as Inside the Ropes. He's a great Bret. I could listen to Bret all day. He was talking, it was great. You might want to be careful on this one. I've got Billy Corgan.
Billy Corgan?
Yeah, Billy Corgan. Yeah.
Man, he's the boss. He's the guy who signs the checks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm still in this weird space to where this famous rock star hits me up on occasion. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
still weird. And like my wife will text me when she's at work and be like, "Hey, your boss is on the radio." It's still really weird to me.
It's crazy, isn't it? But
Yeah.
I've got Smashing Pumpkins written down, funny enough, but that's because band, obviously. I got next one on the list was Tyrus.
You know, man, he gets a lot of hate online. So I'm going to say Heat Seeker for that reason.
Okay.
But dude, I hope this doesn't kill his gimmick, but I don't know if there may be one other person there's two other people who've been as cool to me as Tyrus has since I joined.
Okay.
So I treat people how they treat me, man. He ain't never been nothing but gold to me.
I've just got Funkasaurus down because that's how you know.
Man, I will say this. I do remember when they were bringing him in, and remember they did all these crazy, like vicious looking hype packages for him.
Yeah.
And like I remember seeing him on some independents, and I was like, "Oh, this is going to be awesome." Yeah. And then he came out doing that. I'm like, "What was all this build?"
Yeah, I know it's really bad because I think he's more talented than what sometimes. Well, they've said definitely more than what WWE showed him. You know, as him because obviously he was more of a comedy character, wasn't he? As a funk. So I always say there's a lot of them like that out there that are just uber talented. But I mean, I think one of them I've got written down was Chad Gable in terms of. I think at the moment, if you watch WWE, Chad Gable is literally Kurt Angle, but he's in the tag team he's like a comedy tag team. But if you had him, literally wouldn't put him in the ring with like an Angle. I had him down as literally Kurt Angle double in terms of how great he is, but we don't get to see it.
Yeah, look at Angle's early run. How much of that was comedy?
Yeah,
he was the white meat howdy doody All American who was a nerd.
Exactly,
but could tear everybody apart.
Yeah, and Gable's the same. I think. I mean, he done I think he done at WrestleMania. He done a rolling German on like Braun Strowman. It was like thrilling. You know what I mean?
As soon as I saw that, I go Chaos Theory. Where's Doug Williams at?
Exactly. Yeah. Oh, Doug Williams, the man. See, a great Brit. Want to get him on here one day. He knows Fiona as well, so hopefully I can get a word in. Yeah, I'd love to get Doug on here. He's a great guy. I've got next one was actually Hulk Hogan.
Dude, the biggest star ever in wrestling. 100%.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt with that. I think him and Austin,
they could different eras, and they could probably argue over who was bigger, but like I don't know, man. It's hard to say.
Yeah, exactly. I've got I actually wrote down Voodoo Child because I love the WCW, but the song I thought it was fantastic, and the NWO was great. But
the NWO theme was rad, but Voodoo Child was
something else. I loved it. I thought it was great. Interesting one next because he's another one I want to get on here. Shane Douglas.
I've never met him.
No,
I've never met him. But the effing franchise, cussing. Maybe I should say cussing for Shane.
I've got I've really put something down. Maybe controversial. I put underutilized because I always thought obviously ECW he was great. Obviously he was the first one that changed from to when he put the title in the bin. He had a great run there.
Yeah,
and I don't think that even WCW, although he had a decent run, I don't think they ever really got to the true potential of what he had. And nor WWE just ruined him really in a lot of ways. And I just think he's got so much talent there that he's just not.
Yeah, Shane was always an excellent wrestler. Even when he was in that that tag team with Johnny Ace, it was rough, but he was always so good.
What was that team called?
Dynamic Dudes.
Dynamic. That's it. Yes, I remember Cornette saying about it. Yeah,
he was always so good, but just. Everyone wanted something different from him. At first, he was just the generic white meat baby face.
Yeah.
And then he was a teacher.
Yeah.
And then like WCW tried to do his ECW stuff.
Just didn't work.
But they had to water it down.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to put him to be the franchise, you have to be at the top of the
You do.
card.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't be the franchise at mid card. It doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't work.
So
it definitely doesn't work. No, I feel he's underutilized personally. Last one on the list is Jeff Jarrett.
Man, there's nobody better at making money than old Double J. I love me some Double J.
Yeah, he's great.
I've always liked Double J. I like long-haired, goofy Double J. I like short hair. Don't piss me off, Double J. Yeah. I've always liked Double J. Maybe I'm in the minority. I see a lot of hate he gets online. But dude was at SummerSlam. Dude was at Flair's last match.
Yeah.
Dude's at AEW now. This is in the same year.
Yeah.
He's everywhere.
He is. I've got guitar down just because he loves smashing people over the head with the guitar.
Yeah, baby. I've taken it 2 or 3 times.
Oh, how is it?
The 2 from Jeff were fine. Jeff got me this deal. We did a thing at we have a minor league baseball team here in Tennessee, the Nashville Sounds, and he goes, "Hey, would you like to do something at the 7th inning stretch?" He goes, "I'm like the guest of honor or whatever." I go, "Okay." I thought he was going to be taking a guitar shot from him, and I'm like, "All right." So I'm dressed up as like the opposing team's manager, and like he comes out, and I get in his face. No, the mascot hits me.
No.
And he blasted me, and it wasn't flush. Jeff has done it a time or two.
Yeah.
So he kind of hit me up it split me open. I was like,
oh my
yay.
God. Fantastic. Unbelievable. That is,
but no, Jeff has had me do some cool stuff, man. I love Jeff.
Yeah, he's always, I've always, again, another one I think in some cases was very underutilized in some areas, for sure. Move on. TNA gut check. I've always been interested because obviously that was their version of Tough Enough in a lot of ways. So that was what they were trying to do. Talk us through the experience there. I'm interested about this. How did that all come about? What was it like being there? And basically what happened?
So I wish that I could give you this. It's cool. Like I was on TV, but I bet if you Googled it, I'm not. And here's why. They also did their gut checks at their live events.
Okay.
And that was more of a tryout thing. And it'd be a mixture of people who were offered to come down and people who paid to come down. So ours was in Gainesville, Georgia. There were 36 people there, which was insane. I thought we weren't even going to get in the ring ever. Let's see who did. Our gut check was done by Pat Kenny, Simon Diamond, and Brian Hebden were the guys who were kind of like leading our gut check. And it went pretty well. It went decent. I got let's see, they were 4 or 5 matches chosen. So dude, kind of like, do a couple different little spots, cut a promo in the ring, blah, blah, blah. And then whoever they liked, they would select for a match. And so they had like 5 matches out of the 36 people. So not everyone got one. I was lucky enough to get one. It went okay. We had a manager in ours, and the spot kind of got messed up, whatever. But so there was nothing that ever came on paper, but they did this when they had a working relationship with OVW. And Pat goes, "So where are you located?" I said, "Nashville, right outside Nashville." And he said, "Well, Louisville's a couple-hour drive. I'm going to send Al Snow your name. Get in contact with Al Snow." So it was never like, there were some people there who was under like developmental contract. That was not me. I was just kind of see what happens. Go down there. We watch the tapes. Now I don't know if TNA ever really watched the tapes. But I went down there and did about 8 to 10 months at OVW until TNA severed their ties with it. And at that point, I was like, all right, back to something else then, I guess.
So with Impact nowadays, we were talking to Santino yesterday, and it's really going about its business very quietly but very effectively at the minute. From what we see in the UK, like they've had like 5 sold out events recently. I think the last 5 pay-per-views may have been sold out or something like that. And the talent pool there is amazing. From again, Santino was telling them, I've been watching it myself, but yeah, interesting. I always liked Tough Enough. I always thought it was a pretty good insight as to what they needed to. I remember it was Hardcore Bob Holly stiffing. I think it was Matt Capaldi. I think it was in one.
He just stomped the crap out of Matt Capitelli.
Matt Capitelli. Sorry, yes, that was his name. Before we move on to NWA, we'll do one more game, which is Shot Clock. I haven't got a Shot Clock. I don't do that. I've nicked it off Steve Austin. He can sue me if he wants it. You're going to get a lot of money. But again, 8 questions. I can kind of play along, but I can't. In some of them, I can't. But I can probably give a description of something. So the first one on there is, what would be your dream match if you could have anybody?
Is this living or dead?
Either.
Harley
Race.
Harley Race, man. I don't know what it is about Harley. I just love Harley Race.
Okay. I can't obviously say what my dream match would be, but I can say the best match I've ever seen was in a house show in the UK. So it was Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker. And people say, well, that's obviously going to be a good match. But I'm not sure. They had a match at No Way Out. And I can't remember if this was post or pre-WrestleMania, but they come over, and it was in Earls Court, I think, or the XL Arena in London, and they had a 45-minute main event. It was like, there was ankle lock, it was, And I just remember vividly to this day, there is nothing. I've seen Taker Michaels, the whole story between them two. I've seen all of those live. Triple H, Undertaker. I've seen, God, loads of matches I've seen live at Angle, Michaels at WrestleMania. But that one wasn't even televised, but it was just, I'm still to this day blown away by it. Okay. If you could perform at any arena in America, what would it be? Where? Or is there a particular arena that you would like to perform in?
Yes, and sadly, it's not holding events any longer, but the Mid-South Coliseum, Memphis, Tennessee.
Oh yeah, okay. I think Cornet. I think I've heard Cornet mention that a couple of times. So yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Favorite arena I've been to in the States wasn't to see wrestling, but it was Madison Square Garden. I went when I went to New York on holiday. It was there. So, who's got the best entrance music in wrestling?
Oh God,
it stumps everybody.
Is this a current? Is this current?
It can be anything. Anyone.
Oh geez, that is hard.
Yeah.
I think it's got to be Austin.
Austin,
because like even the minute the glass breaks, like you still get tingles.
Yeah,
you know what I mean.
I would definitely say Austin. I mean, Triple H has got a good theme, but in terms of like the one that I guess I say this every time on the podcast was the Undertaker, and I swear to God that they turn the aircon off in that arena because you do feel cold until that dong goes off, the darkness hits the arena, you hear the thunder. And I swear to God, I don't know. Maybe they don't. It's just you're in that moment, I suppose, maybe, and because you do get those, you get the goosebumps, and it's only until his fire starts coming up that he starts to get hot. But I don't know if it's again, whether you're just in that moment or not.
So I never got to see that Undertaker.
Okay. Oh, okay.
The one time I saw Undertaker live was, I forgot what the pay-per-view was, but it's him versus Hogan in the main.
Judgment Day.
Yeah, and he was Biker Undertaker.
Yeah.
And so I didn't get Rollin'. I didn't get American Badass. This was Dead Man Walking.
You're gonna pay. Yeah, you're gonna pay. Yeah. Oh man, you haven't experienced
which is underrated. A lot of people hate it. I thought that song was pretty cool, but I didn't get that whole aura from Undertaker. Man.
Shocking.
Live anyway.
Anyway, you may have answered this because you've done it in training, but what's the worst bump you've taken?
That wasn't my worst I've ever taken. Okay. The worst I took that ended up putting me out for 8 months was I was wrestling Drew Haskins. We had broke up, and he was giving me a DDT on the apron. And normally it's fine, just go flat, whatever. Been while we do it all the time. I tried to get cute and spike, and I put this arm down to brace myself, and it shot my shoulder out. And I've had my shoulder dislocated a lot before. So I was like, all right, whatever. And I popped it back in. Well, I don't know if it's popping it back in or when it came out, it tore my labrum, 75% of it, and ripped my bicep tendon off.
Jesus.
I wrestled for 2 months after that, just thinking it was sore from being dislocated. And one day I did a move. And, wrestlers try to make sound every now and then. So I may have made some sound, and pain just shot into my fingertips from my shoulder. And I was like, I'm gonna have to go to the doctor, aren't I? Because I totally redid my whole style where I never had to lift this arm over here, and I wasn't picking up anybody anymore. Like I was just trying to let it heal, and it wasn't going to after I got checked out. They're like, yeah, no, this will be this way permanently, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's fix it.
Christ, Jesus, that's the worst one I've ever heard of when I've asked that question. Next one was favorite burger joint in maybe Tennessee or anywhere in America. Favorite?
We've got a spot here local. It's called Jack Brown's. They've got a couple throughout Tennessee.
Okay.
And they make their burgers with Wagyu beef.
Yes, I've got Wagyu.
I don't know if it's pure Wagyu beef or if it's a mixture they use.
Yeah.
And they also do different stuff on it, but those burgers are so good. It's not a big place. It's not a fancy place. It's not anything like that. It's a little dive bar that just has some of the best, juiciest burgers I've ever had.
Interesting. I can't. I mean, in America, I don't know. Whataburger, maybe. Whataburger. Is it called Whataburger?
We just got the first one in Tennessee not that long ago.
Oh, okay.
And my wife waited in an hour line for it. And I ate it, and I'm like, this is a normal fast food burger. It's a good fast food burger, but to me, it wasn't. I would not wait an hour for it.
No, definitely not. I think you've actually answered this question. Do you prefer single or tag? But I think you've already kind of given that.
It just kind of depends if I have a partner that I
Yeah.
really gel with. I love tag wrestling. I love the stories that can be told.
Yeah.
If I don't, I like being in control. So I want to be in the singles
There
match.
you go. Who's the best ribber you've come across, or practical joker?
Oh gosh, man, Quentin was pretty good. He wouldn't do a lot of ribs as far as moving stuff or messing with stuff. He would just tell you something was true and let you believe it for far too long until you did something stupid. Um, I'll take the Quentin was really good as far as physical ribs. There was a guy when I first broke in, an old vet named Rick Reynolds.
Mhm.
He worked like in the tail end of the Jarretts
Yep.
as one of the mass guys and stuff like that. But he on our first road trip, he ribbed me, and I mean I'm 6 months in, so I don't know
Yeah.
what a rib is. I think Rick hates me.
Yeah.
Um, and he just ribbed me it's to Chicago, so it's like a 6-7 hour drive.
Mhm.
He ribs me the entire way there. Is fine with me while we're there, and the
Yeah.
entire way back. The entire way there, he insists I sit up front. My trainer's sitting in the back laughing, and he's just like putting his hand on my leg. Just little simple stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know what to say. And then we had an agreement. This is silly that I guess took like 3 gas loads to go there and back.
Yep.
So we'll just each get a gas load. Cool.
Mhm.
Well, I go to pay for the first one. No, I got this one. Okay, cool. And as soon as we got in the car, oh man, you can't too good to pay gas. Next one, I'll get this one. No, man, I got this one. Okay, cool. Oh, he's too good to pay gas. Look at this greenhorn. By the time we hit the last one, I shoved them out of the way and stick my card in, and they're just dying laughing.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, there you go. There's the ribs.
Yeah.
So the last thing before we finish up, let's talk a bit about NWA. And then if you
Okay.
can, after we finished NWA, if you can tell everyone where you are on socials and your appearances coming up. So how did NWA happen? When did it start? And then go into your socials and your appearances you got coming up.
Okay. So NWA, I got hit up the first time for them. Well, in the end of 2019, actually, I had done some work behind the scenes for one of their pay-per-view and tapings.
Yeah.
My buddy was the guy who provided the ring, and my students actually provided most of the security and backstage help.
Yeah.
So they got me into the help. So I did that. Then COVID happened. The world shut down, and I thought wrestling was done.
Oh, really? You thought it was going to be?
And I'd had a neck injury prior to that. Had just recovered from that. Had 2 matches. Then COVID happened, and I was like, they're telling us we can never be around each other and all that stuff. So I'm like, wrestling's a live event business. It's done.
Yeah.
And so I'm helping a buddy out at his training school, but I mean, the boots are literally in the closet. Like they're not even where my other clothes are. And I got a call from a New Jersey area code, and I don't know anybody in New Jersey, so I ignored it. Go back in, run a couple drills, hear my phone go off again, and roll outside. It's a text message from that same number. Hey, this is Pat Kenny. I'm the executive producer for NWA. I want to talk to you about working. And I'm like, oh God, ran outside, called Pat. Hey man, what are you doing? Why didn't you answer? Oh, I'm at a wrestling school, helping a buddy train. Well, good, get some reps because I want to use you for TV and blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay. So the boots came out of the closet.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's been ever since then. I think it was April of 21. So I guess this would be 2 years.
Yeah, 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, just past 2 years. It's been a wild ride. It really has, because I legit I'm done. I just got married too, and I was like, I guess if I'm going to give it up, it's a good time right now.
Good time. Yeah.
And then I don't know, fate intervened. Is it The Godfather, where it's every time I try to get out, they pull me back in? Yeah. I felt like that, but it's been the best run I've had, so can't complain.
And long may it continue as well.
Fingers crossed, as long as my body holds out.
Exactly. So before we finish up, Jeremiah, can you just let them know where you are on socials, where can fans follow you, and when you're next on NWA or your next appearances?
Sure. I don't know when this is going to drop. I will actually be on NWA USA tomorrow, which is the 22nd.
It could drop. It could drop before then. Yeah, it may do.
Yeah, if it does drop before then,
maybe.
Not, hey, it's on YouTube. It's there forever. Go back and watch it. So I'll be on NWA USA, but you can always catch me on NWA Power, NWA USA. And then as far as where I'm at on social media, man, on Twitter, Instagram, and I got a Facebook fan page. It's all under Plunkitis.
Mm-hmm.
You can thank the deal machine there, Danny Deals, for that name. He called it to me once, and he's been calling me that ever since. And I made it my social media handle. But at Plunkitis on everything. I'm not the best social media person. I try. I really try, but it's a quagmire sometimes. So sometimes I might go a few days without being on there.
To be honest, like we're just restarting our we're going to change our Instagram, I think. And I've said to my girlfriend, like, can you do that? Because I'm just not I can do the Twitter, I can do the Facebook. You can schedule posts on Facebook on our page, so it's great. I can just do all that, but yeah, I'm not the best guy on socials either, but I try. But thanks for that. No, thanks, and everyone, you just heard it. If we get this uploaded, I'll have to talk to our YouTube guy and say, get it on tonight, please, because obviously you're going to be on air. Well, tomorrow for us is in 3 hours. So
there you go.
Yeah. So from our point of view, so hitting the turnbuckle, you can obviously get us at HTT Buckle. I need to forget that on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube at the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast, all one word. This will be uploaded. Okay, so some sponsor shout outs now. We've already mentioned them today. Beers and Beatdowns, our tag team sponsor. We're doing some merchandising with them coming up in the next few months. They're going to do some artwork and we're going to have our logo on that, so we're looking forward to them. Shout out to the Brewskis and get the Brewskis in. Pro Wrestling Carnage, which is a pro wrestling company in Wales that we sponsor. Beers and Beatdowns are regulars on there. They've got a show coming up, the Coronation of the King. Fun enough, because King Charles over here is being coronated. There you go. So they put a great, that's the week. So that's on the Sunday. Ignite Pro Wrestling is one of our platinum sponsors. So they've got the Bitter End is coming up on the 30th of April. I will be there because we are going to be announcing the show that the Hitting the Turnbuckle is co-producing with Ignite Pro Wrestling, called Buckle Up, on the 23rd of July. There is going to be a major announcement on that show, which will continue our partnership. You'll get the scoop off air, Jeremiah. Can't say it on air, but you'll get it off air. So I'll be there on the 30th to meet up with the guys there. We're going to do some promotional work, so I can't wait for that. Jurassic Pro Wrestling is another one. This is near me in Essex. I went to see their last show, which was really, really good. They've got Primal Instincts, which is the next one on June the 4th, and I'll be there again. So come and say hello to me and the team over there. They call it a Fatal Clawway main event because it's Jurassic, and it's for the Lost World Championship, the Lost World Jurassic Park. Great little thing they've done. So that's going to be defended in a Fatal 4-way match. Our wrestling sponsor, Corey McRae, I think he's still maybe in Austria doing his thing. So we sponsor Corey McRae. We're doing some more with him, bits and pieces later on as well. We're also sponsoring a amateur darts player who's going to try and get into the professional darts industry, Matt Cast. Good luck to him. He's got some tournaments coming up, the Windmill Challenge at the end of May. I think I've covered it all off with that. I will take a breath. But Jeremiah, thank you so much for taking your time today to come on. It's been fascinating talking stuff with you and your career. And we wish you the very best of luck going forward in the NWA and beyond. And hopefully everyone will check out NWA this week, right?
Yes, sir.
Exactly.
Let's do it.
So, guys, we are back on Sunday. I've got to do some guest runs out quick now. So, Sunday, me and Andy will be back because he won't be delivering beer to the nation. We're going to be covering off AEW and SmackDown on Sunday. We have a professional on Monday. We got Sal and Fiona joining us. So, the Sal are going to give some grooming tips too with his hair, and the lovely Fiona, fresh from her One Pro Wrestling stint, will be joining us as well. That's going to be a late one, 11 o'clock over here in the UK. On Wednesday, we've got another darting crossover. I'm going to be a bit of a fanboy on Wednesday. We've got a dart player called Paul Nicholson coming on, who actually done the CM Punk entrance against the best dart player in the world at the time, which is Phil Taylor, and beat him and then he cut a promo afterwards. It was really great. You can search that on Google if you will, YouTube. It's on there. So I'm going to be a fanboy on that one. And who have we got Wednesday? Oh, my God. We have got loads of guests coming up. I'll have to throw that off on Wednesday. I will just check, actually, because I can check my meetings. So we got Paul Nicholson Wednesday. Sorry, so that's Wednesday. We got Paul Nicholson. On Thursday, We have, oh yes, our good friend Aiden English, or Matt Wildwold, whatever his name is. I can't pronounce that last name. I'm going to have to get it. Rusev Day is us on Thursday of next week. The week after, we have Flash Morgan Webster from NXT UK. And on the 11th of May, we talk to the Professor of Professional Wrestling, Bobby Fish, who will be joining us live on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Jeremiah, again, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody have a great evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and we will be back on Sunday. Goodbye.